Welcome to the Jan Meeuwsen Garden Show on 99.7 and 1450 WHTC. It's your opportunity to learn more about your garden and your yard, about dealing with pests, and about taking care of the birds. You can be part of the show with your questions at 395-1450. That's 395-1450. And now, from Bruyn Seeds on Washington Avenue in Zeeland, here's the Master Gardener, Jan Meeuwsen.
And good morning, everyone. What a lovely day. It's not pouring out. It's cool enough that you can get out and garden or do something outside. So let us thank God for the beautiful day, and let's get outside and play in it. There's a lot to do around in your garden and your lawn this time of year, and I'll be talking about that in just a minute. But first, I want to let you know that the phone lines are open. 616-395-1450. 616-395-1450 is the number to call. If you got a question, get me a call. I'm glad to answer it. And I want to talk about Windmill Island is partnering up with the MSU Extension again this summer, and they're having two presentations. One is this coming Tuesday, I believe. No, it's June 25th, so it's a little while from now. And Rebecca Finneman from the MSU Extension Service is going to do a talk on smart gardening to deter deer and critters. This is great fun. They do it in the tent on Windmill Island Gardens. There's lemonade, there's popcorn. You can ask all the questions you want. They're fun. These are great learning things. So you have to sign up, and it is a $10 fee. And just so they know that you're coming, so they know how many chairs to set up. But you can go online to the MSU Extension and sign up for it, and then you can just come on in. It's Tuesday, June 25 from 6 to 7:30 at night. And the first one is smart gardening to deter deer and critters. And then the second class is on June. Why do I have June 23? I think it has to be July 23. No, gal, this is it. It is July 17 from 6 to 7. I have to read what I wrote here. I have to write better. That's all I can say now, or have better glasses. And the title of that one is Lakeshore Conservation Challenges of Protecting and Restoring Near Shore Vegetation. And that's going to be with Eric Elgin, again with MSU Extension Water Quality. He will talk about wetlands and right along if you got a lake or a pond or any sort of water on your property, even a low spot, he'll talk about that. Again, $10 to register. Go online to MSU and look for events in Ottawa County. It will come right up. This is like the big one coming up right now is the Windmill Islands talking. So, yes, if you want to do that, it is coming up. Get signed up, and you can deter deer and learn what to plant if you're near any kind of water. I think it will be very helpful. They're always helpful. So, what to do this week? We've got a lot to do. If you've got tomatoes and peppers planted in the ground, it's probably time to start adding some fertilizer, and make sure your fertilizer is meant for tomatoes and peppers, and it has some calcium in it so you don't get blossom end rot. That's really important to make sure you add that calcium, especially if your tomatoes are in pots on the ground, above the ground. Make sure it's got enough calcium in there for them to develop correctly. And then the second thing is make sure that they are constantly watered. They don't want to be dripping in water. They don't want to wet feet, but they do want to be moist. So keep them moist. And sometimes if they're in a pot, they can dry out really, really quickly. So sometimes you even have to water them twice or maybe even 3 times a day if they're in a pot. If they're in the ground, it's not that much of a problem. But in a pot, they dry out really quick because the sun's going to hit that pot, and it's going to make that soil dry out a lot quicker. So make sure that you water them well. I put a little bit of mulch on top of my peppers and my tomatoes, just to help keep the water in so it doesn't evaporate quite so quickly. And that always gives a little bonus there. It's also time to do a tomato check. And this is take a good look at your tomatoes, and you're going to be removing any suckers. And a sucker is an unwanted branch. We want big, strong, healthy branches that are going to bear a lot of fruit. But if you see a nice branch coming off the stem of your tomato, and between that nice branch and the stem of the tomato, there's a little growth growing, pick that off. That's going to just suck the energy out of the plant, and we don't want that. We want the energy to go to our tomatoes that are developing on our strong branches. So take off any suckers, and that's kind of an ongoing thing all summer long, but especially when it first starts in the spring, take off those suckers right now. People are still planting in their gardens. We still have a nice selection of vegetable plants and tomatoes and peppers and all the rest of the stuff. So, I mean, if you didn't get to it right away, or if all of a sudden you decide, you know what, I'm going to do a garden, you still have not gone past that point of no return. You still have plenty of time to plant. So don't worry about it. I put my green beans in on Friday, so it's not like that was just yesterday. So, that's my first picking of green beans I got in. I usually plant them like every 2 weeks during the summer, so I have like a succession of picking times all the way through summer. You can keep planting your green beans through middle of July, and you'll still get picking in August. So that's one of those short season things. Cucumbers are another short season that you can get in, and keep doing successive plantings on it. That's a good thing. Now, you're going to have to be on patrol for the insect explosion. Always happens every summer, and it happens in different yards at different times. I had one lady this week that had an explosion of ticks in her yard, another one that had an explosion of Asiatic garden beetles, which I thought it was too early for, but obviously it isn't. So we really need to go out there, protect our plants. If you want to protect your flowers from being eaten, there is a Bayer product, not a Bayer, it's BioAdvance now, Jan. BioAdvance product out there called Rose and Flower, and you spray it, and you only have to do this once a month, and it will take care of the insects on your rose and flowers. Now, I want you to do this in the early morning. I want you to spray, or in the evening on a day where there is no wind, because nowadays we've got these sprays that have all these micro encapsulated spray that's really fine, and in a wind it will carry, and it will go over to the neighbors, or will go over wherever. We don't want that. So we only want it to land on our flowers that we are going, or our plants that we are wanting to spray. We're making sure we are following the label directions. If it says to wear a mask, wear a mask. If it says to wear gloves, long sleeves and pants. Follow the directions on the label. That's what you need to do. And when you're spraying your plants, don't spray the flowers. Spray the green only. Spraying the flowers, that's where the bees land. And everything will kill a bee. So I don't care what you're spraying with. Make sure you don't hit the flowers. That's one thing. Just spray the green, spray the leaves, and you should get most of the insects that way if you spray the leaves only on a day before the bees come out or after the bees go to bed at night. Don't spray in the middle of the day ever, ever, ever. I don't care how sick of it you are of all of the insects. You need to wait until the bees are gone to bed and the butterflies are gone. We don't want to hurt the pollinators at all. So we just be careful. I have noticed that behind the building here, the studio, there is an explosion of box elder bugs back there. You can't walk, put your foot down without all of a sudden 20 of them are just go scurrying somewhere. And Wow, there's a lot of them back there. Now you understand why in the fall the wall out there is covered with box elder bugs wanting to come in. Um, I know now why. Don't walk on the lawn out the back of the studio. Just a caution for anybody. Um, Attention. Oh, if this is the time. This is June now. If you have squash or cucumbers or pumpkins or whatever planted already, they need to be sprayed down, because the squash vine borer, um, it's it's in the crawler stage during the month of June, and what it's doing, they're so small you don't see them. They're just running around looking for a place to lay their eggs, and where they're going to lay their eggs is right near the ground, right on the branch of your squash, pepper, whatever you've got, one of your cucurbits, pumpkin. And what it does is it lays its eggs and then it hatches into a little caterpillar type thing that actually gets inside the branch and then just starts eating everything. And all of a sudden you'll go out there one morning and the whole branch of that pumpkin or whatever is just dead. And if you go look, they're there in there. So you don't want that. So this is June. We need to spray. Just a good all-purpose insect spray will do it. Again, we're going to spray early morning. They don't have blossoms yet, so you can pretty much spray. Don't have to worry too much about it, but you do need to spray. Make sure you spray the the um, the stems, especially near the base of it where they would like to lay their eggs. Make sure that all gets sprayed, and maybe do that twice during the month of June. You just don't, once they're there, you can't do anything about it except for cut the branch off, and it's usually the one that's got the most pumpkins or the most squash on them. That's always the way it happens. But just avoid that by spraying down your plants this time of year. And it's time actually to plant some pumpkin seeds if you haven't done that already. Most of the big time growers plant them in June so they can have them in October. That's what we want. We don't really want them any earlier than that necessarily. So it is time to plant our pumpkins. And remember, before your tomatoes get too huge, we need to put a cage around them or put some stakes around them to tie them up. I need to do that this afternoon. Mine keep growing. I hate that, but it's part of life. So get those tomato cages. We've got all kinds of them, all different prices, all different sizes and shapes. We've got the ones that are just the wire ones that people have had for years, that will fall apart after a couple of years. We've got the sturdier ones that fold flat. You can hang them up in the garage at the end of the year and reuse them next year and keep reusing them. And we've got poles and things like that also. So get those tomato cages out there. We need to stop and take a break, but we will be back right after this. I like music. I want you to get up and dance. All right. Dance party Saturday morning here, otherwise known as the garden party. Phone lines are open through 616 395 1450. 616 395 1450. Might as well kind of talk about what we can plant in the garden yet and what we shouldn't be planting in the garden. But right now, time for green and yellow beans to get in there, cucumbers, pickles, squash, pumpkins, beets, carrots, radishes, gourds, corn, sunflowers. The greens you can plant yet, tomatoes and pepper plants you can put in the ground. Herb plants you can put in the ground. Okra, that would love to be out there right now. It is really too late to plant peas right now. If you want to do peas, let's do them later, mid-August, and then you can get them for a fall crop. They don't like the heat of summer. I mean, they'll grow, not a problem, and they'll have flowers on them, but the flowers generally just fall off unless we get, days like this all summer long when they'll probably stay on. But once we hit an 80-degree day, the flowers just fall off and they don't develop a pod. So let's hold off the peas until mid-August. Broccoli and all the cucurbit or all the brassicas like that, we can cut off on planting the seed right now, but we can wait until the end of June and we can plant broccoli from seed, and that should be ready in the fall when it gets cooler out. That's a cool weather crop, doesn't like the heat of summer, but it will grow in just fine. Once you want it to get to that point where you're cutting it off, you want that to be in September. So we don't plant that till the end of this month, end of July, around there. It is too late for celery and leeks. That's a really long, both of those are really long season crops. You should have thought about that in March maybe and done those. Lettuce, again, lettuce is one of those plants, and spinach. They're the plants that they like the cooler weather. And once we get the hot weather of summer, they send up, what they do is they bolt, and that means they send up the seed head. And once they do that, the lettuce gets really bitter, and it's really inedible. So you might as well. That's just one that you were not going to be able to be eating anymore. Asparagus roots, strawberry plants, rhubarb. Honestly, folks, if you see it in the farmer's market, it's too late to plant it. That should have been done earlier spring. What you can do at the end of the summer is get a patch ready to put it in first thing in the spring. We have the asparagus roots usually early March, and the strawberry plants really like the cool weather to be planted. So we need to talk about that again in March, maybe early April, and that's it. So, yeah, it's one thing that needs the cooler weather. Rhubarb you can still dig up and replant in September, but don't be doing it right now. A little late to do it, and it's one of those things that we're kind of done with that. You can plant again later. Peas, lettuce, spinach, kale, broccoli, garlic. We can plant those all later on in the season, and in the late summer, and we'll get a fall crop. Just remember some plants are cool weather that like to be harvested when it's cool. Others are long weather, long day plants that like the long, hot summer. Corn is one of those. Okra loves the hot summer. A lot of our beans love the hot summer. They grow out west in the desert. So, yes, I think they could probably take our hot summer just as long as you keep them watered. They do well. So, that's what we can do in our garden now. Flowers, there's always flowers that you can put in your garden. Your garden needs flowers. It's good to get the pollinators over to your garden with some color. Whatever you want to put around, whether it be zinnias or whether it be some bee balm or something to get them in, draw them in. That's always the fun thing. I love watching my butterflies, especially. I love planting dill, and I've already got them planted, dill and parsley, for my swallowtail butterflies. I plant a lot of it just so they can have their little caterpillars on there, and I can watch them. The bees love my thyme and my oregano when it goes to flower. I mean, we all, keep trimming it off so it doesn't go to flower, so it just keeps giving more and more. But once it goes to flower, they're very pretty. They smell quite nice. But the bees love their flowers. So, let your thyme and oregano and marjoram and things like that all go to seed or go to flower once, and then watch the bees on that. You'll be impressed by what you see. I always love sitting there watching all the little insects, the good insects that are flying around, and hopefully they're taking care of the bad insects, I'm hoping. But it's fun to do that. So get those flowers planted in your garden. My dad always said it wasn't a garden without flowers, and he was right. All those years ago, he was right. We're now just coming to light where, it isn't a garden without planting flowers around it. We've had a lot of people call about their marigolds being eaten. and it's basically the leaves that are being eaten, and they're not seeing rabbits or anything like that. Um, yeah, it's probably what you have is the Asiatic garden beetle. It eats at night and it hides in the soil during the day. So you never see them unless you go out at night and actually start looking around there. So get those plants sprayed. Get the bare rose and or the bio advanced rose and flower and get that sprayed on there. I also do on my roses. I use the bio advanced insect mite and disease spray. And again, it's one, it takes care of all three problems. So you don't have to worry about that. And you just do it once a month. I write on the bottle when I sprayed it. I sprayed it June 1, so I just wrote 6/1/24 on it. So the next time I go through the garage and it's, the beginning of July, I got to spray those things again. So just write on it. My memory is not that good that I remember from month to month. But if I write it down and it's big enough that I can see it and I walk past it in the garage, I will do it. I will remember it. Yep, I've got to do that now. Because why plant? Why do all this work if you're not going to take care of your plants later on? Your garden is one of those things that takes a lot of work, takes a lot of your energy. But you can sit back and enjoy it once you've got it all done. You need to keep your garden weeded. That is like the number one thing. I see all these pictures of gardens that I can't even find the the bean plant or whatever because there's so many weeds in it. Keep the weeds down. The weeds take energy out of the soil that could be going to your plant. And also the weeds are where the insects like to hide. So they're going to be on the weeds first and then they'll go to the plant and just kind of go back and forth. So get rid of the weeds. Then you have less of a problem with insects. So making sure your garden is weeded. And I remember looking at my garden once. I was outside looking at my flower garden and I thought, you know what? I've had it. I'm just going to let it go. It looks pretty enough. You can see the flowers above the weeds. And I remember my neighbor came over and she was stood next to me and she said, why are you weeding? And I decided I wouldn't do it. It's going to take too much time. And she goes, here. And I'll help you. She got on her hands and knees and she started weeding my flower garden. Well, then I felt I needed to start weeding also. And honestly, it really didn't take us that much time. And I had a huge garden at the time. And we tied up our gladiolas and we did everything that we needed to do for the flowers. It really didn't take that much time. I was just being very, very lazy. So now I'm just worried that she's going to come back and make sure and give me a test on whether my garden is weeded. So I keep it weeded. And it's not that hard of a job. One of the guys at work loves that garden weasel. It's a little tool that you can kind of go back and forth in the garden and get rid of your weeds. And if you've got a big garden, that might be the thing to do. As I age, my back gets worse and worse. And it's harder and harder. That ground gets further and further away, unless you're falling. But other than that, it gets further and further away. It gets hard to bend over and weed all the time. So, you might, consider, getting one of Garden Weasel or one of the hoes that we have at Bruyn's. We've got a lot of them. The thing is, there's so many different types of hoes. There's an onion hoe, and then there's a regular hoe, and then there's this type of hoe. And just get a basic one. That's all I'm going to say. But it will help you so you don't have to bend over quite so much. Save your back. And then once you get the garden weeded and get your landscape beds weeded, put down preen. And then water that in. And then we don't have to worry about the weeds again. Preen will last a good 3 months. It works in your flower garden and in your landscape beds. And there's a preen for vegetable gardens too. Get it out there so you don't have to weed again. Get that first weeding done. Get all the weeds out of there. put it down, they won't come back. That is so nice. I love that. It's a backache in a bag. So get that preen down now. We need to stop. The news is coming up, but the garden show will be back right after that. Okay, folks, sorry. I'm just listening to the music, just talking here, and we're just having a good time, and I forgot about you. I'm very sorry. I won't do that again today. Um, but the phone lines are open if you want to talk. 616-395-1450. 616-395-1450 is the number to call. I'm going to kind of touch on the things that people have called me about when I've been at work this week. I don't go, I'm not there all the time, so don't think that I'm going to be there all the time. The guys there can answer your questions too. If I'm there, I'll be glad to answer your questions, but I'm not there all the time, so I'll just give you that. The one question I got, birds are being a pain in the butt right now. They're kind of, if you've got a fruit tree or a raspberry bush or grapes or anything like that, even strawberries, the birds like to take the first of everything, and they're eating. They peck at everything and eat it. When I was in Florida, I would wait until the oranges on my trees were nice and orange and plump, and then I would pick them, and then I would notice there was a hole in it that some bird had just kind of sucked all the insides right out. So it is irritating to, have a tree, have the nice fruit come on, and have the birds destroy it or eat it. We don't want that to happen. So what do? First thing is you protect the trees. There's netting out there that you can put up and over the trees. Make sure that you either tie it underneath the tree or you put it all the way to the ground, and make sure you've got it in the ground so the birds can't get up and under and into your tree. Netting works well. There's all kinds of different sizes of netting to fit your trees. If you've got raspberry bushes or grapes, there's, netting that comes in rows that you can put over your plants. Just make sure that you get it down to the ground or tie it up underneath the plant so they cannot get up in there. They will forage they love those first grapes and the raspberries almost as much as you do. So you can cover them. If you just got one little tree, why do I want to cover this? Another thing is put a predator out there. An owl, one of those fake owls that people have, get one that actually is colored. You might want to get one that moves in the wind, that kind of turns around. But the best thing to do, don't keep it in one spot all the time. If you go downtown, a lot of downtowns will have those plastic hawks up on the tops of the lampposts or whatever, but they never move them. And then you see the birds just land right on top of them, and they're not. That's not good. You need to keep moving them so they do think that they are living and they won't go around there. Another thing is a snake. Snakes love to wind up around and go into nests and pick out eggs and eat them, and they don't like snakes. Some people will put a garden hose out there around where they're seeing, if they don't want to see birds there. Birds are like I've got a robin family living under my top deck. Now, if I didn't want that, I could just put a snake out there. Rubber hoses work well. You might want to even change how they are. You might want to wind it around if they're up like mine are under the posts of the deck. Wind it around one of the posts. they'll think it is a snake and they will go away. Um, and I'm thinking, Matt had this wonderful snake that we bought him at some zoo, and it was so lifelike. I mean, he scared his sister constantly when they were little. If you have one of those, we're lucky to wrap that around. They'll be scared of that rubber snake, especially if you can change its position every once in a while. That will keep them out. Remember, it is a felony to kill a songbird or to disrupt their nest. Once they've got a nest if they've got a nest there, you can take it down. If there's babies in there, you are not allowed to touch it. So that's the law. Now, if it's a cowbird, well, cowbirds lay their eggs in finch nests, but starling nest, something like that, that's a whole different ball game. But learn what is you can and cannot do. So you don't really want to be known as the people that shot all the robins in your neighborhood. Is that something you really are not allowed to be doing? So keep those predators. Sometimes people have those woodpeckers that will peck at the cedar siding on their house. That's part of a mating thing. And they'll just make all kinds of holes but sometimes if you just there's this tape that we have at Bruyn's that you just hang from the rafters and then just let it twist and turn in the sunlight, and it kind of reflective tape so the sun shines on it. That should scare them away from the siding long enough that that behavior is now a thing of the past and they can go to somebody else's house. Some people just hang fishing wire down with some weights on it so they don't want to fly through that. I find the tape is real easy, and after a month or so you can take it down because they aren't doing it anymore. But that they can do a lot of damage. And they're such shy birds. You want them around, but you don't want them eating your house. So I find the tape works really well for them to keep them just away from your walls. I don't want to keep them away from my suet feeder or my feeders, but I do want to keep them away from that. So that is something that you can do. So yes, the birds are out there in force right now. And so it's nice to have them in our backyard, but I don't want them everywhere. So you can be creative. We've got a lot of things at Bruyn's. I know I live out on the north side of Holland, and there's blueberry bushes out there, and they've got those cannons that go off. So you sit outside early Sunday morning and you just hear kaboom, and you would think that they would get used to that, but I don't like it. So maybe the birds don't like it either, but I think you don't want to put one of those in your backyard. But maybe you can benefit from it from the neighbors. I don't know. But that's a way to get around those birds, to keep them in your backyard where you want them and not where you don't want them. Your lawns right now, don't get your lawn impossibly short. You want to keep it a little bit longer. It's less stress on your lawn when you mow it that way. And it also helps keep the water from evaporating as quickly, so you can cut down on, times of mowing. So that's a good thing. So, and remember, water your lawn deeply during the wee hours of the morning, usually between 2 and 8 a.m. Mine's set to go off at 3 a.m. in my backyard. I hear it not every morning, but like 3 times a week. I hear it go off at 3 in the morning. I know what time it is. So yeah, and turn it off if you know it's going to rain. No sense in watering your lawn if you know there's a rain coming. It's a good thing to get out in your backyard right now, tie up your vines and stake your tall plants, such as gladiolas and lilies. That gives their heavy flowers some support. Otherwise, you're going to go out there and the plant's going to be doubled over, if it's got some flowers on it. We don't want that. We want to see them. So tie them up. We've got stakes at Bruyn's, all different sizes. And we've got great big tall ones to put around your tomatoes and et cetera. You can just cut them in half too. But yes, get those in the ground, tie them up. This is the time to dig up and divide all your crowded bulbs after the tops have died back down. Hopefully, all of your tops of your tulips have died back down. Pull them out, divide them if you would like. You, there's differing opinions on this. Some people say just pull them out and then just replant them in the fall. If they've been in the ground 2 or 3 years, that's about the lifetime of a tulip bulb. You really don't need, you can probably throw it away after 2 or 3 years and just get some new. You can't get new until fall, though. No sense in going to us and saying, hey, I need some tulip bulbs. We don't have them right now and won't have them until the fall. So, um, you know, but we'll have plenty then. So, dig up, divide it, put them. It's best if you don't put them back in right away, if you just keep them in a cool, dry spot over the summer, and then you can put them in the ground in the fall. I have just gone around and I've fertilized all my flowers with a slow release fertilizer, the Osmocote. I love that stuff. It works well. Then I don't have to be fertilizing all the time. So that's a good thing. I don't have to remember, oh, did I fertilize last time or was it 2 times ago? I just put the Osmocote down and it really does help. It works about 3 months. So after 3 months, you might want to add a little bit more to it. And you're going to say, yeah, but I still see the little round things in the ground. Those are called prills, and it works by they open up release the fertilizer after a while, but you still see the little round things. It's like, yeah, they'll eventually go away, but you'll still see them, and you'll think, oh, they're still there and working. But no, those are used ones, so you can still put a little bit more down. I had someone come in and they had found, we're going to have to talk about this after the break here. But we got to listen to the commercials first, and then we'll get back to my idea if I can remember it all that time. What I wanted to talk about. This lady brought in what she had found when she was working in her garden, and they looked like small little round seashells type thing, and they're kind of almost glittery. They're really pretty, and she wondered if that was a good insect or if that was a bad, and it really isn't an insect, it's a snail. And we don't like those things. They live in their shells during the day, and they come up and eat at night. They're not out during the day. So no, we don't like those, and we don't like slugs. They're out there too right now. They love it when you put mulch, nice, dark, moist mulch around your plants, because they can live in that during the day, and then they come up during the night and crawl up your plants and eat your plants, and they especially love hostas. So if you get some holes in the middle of your hostas, you've got slugs and snails, or if you see the little snail shells, that's what you've got. We need to get rid of them. Snail bait works extremely well. Don't get the snail bait with metaldehyde in it. That's the old version of snail bait. It was used for years and years and years. That will kill a dog quicker than anything, and it's got kind of the smell that dogs like anything, but they love that stuff, and they would eat it, and then you had to figure out what it was, and it's a big vet bill, and you don't want to do it. So there's ones out there now that have copper in them, and they have things that won't hurt your pets. So that's good. So that's what we need to put around, and it will kill the snails and slugs. Or you can put out the saucer of beer. If you've got some hostas, put a saucer of beer out there. Make sure that the lip of the saucer is even with the ground, so they can come up to it. They can smell the beer. They love that yeast in the beer. And then they jump in for a swim in there, and then they drown. Make sure it's deep enough that they cannot get back out again. And then go out there and check it every morning or probably mid-morning, and then dump the old stuff and put a new batch out there. This does not have to be the expensive, IPA or anything like that. This can be the cheapest beer that you can find, and it can even be near beer. It doesn't really, they just like the yeast. So put that out there. The cheapest stuff, don't spend a lot of money on your snails. That works. Also, some people use diatomaceous earth, which is sea plankton from thousands and thousands of years ago, and they grind it up, and it has all these sharp edges on it. And the thought is that they crawl through that and they die. I find unless you put an awful lot out there, it really is not a whole lot of help. And if it rains, it is no help at all. So, diatomaceous earth might help more if it's inside where it's not going to rain. If you got a problem with ants or something. But just remember, you can't sweep it up. It's got to be there, like in a pile around your baseboards or whatever. That I'm too fussy about that. I can't have that in my house. But some people do that with no problem. They aren't quite as not paranoid, but just so it gets to the point where I'm a little bit, I don't like that, and it's got to be changed, and I have to do that right now. So if you're not like that, you can put on some diatomaceous earth. It doesn't hurt anything except for very small, soft-shelled insects. If you're trying to get something that's got a shell on it, like a roach or, a beetle, probably not going to do anything to that. And again, you have to have enough of it out there to really make a difference. And it has to be everywhere they might possibly be. Not that I don't like the stuff, but you just have to know where the insects are and put out enough of it that they will walk through it. All right, what else do we have? Let's she's reminding me that I only have 2 minutes left. Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, I will remind you that, normally I'm here on Tuesday morning at 8:45 or whatever with Dan with the garden party, and then later on at between 10 and 11 for what is that called? Talk of the Town it's called, with the garden hour. But I believe I have some doctor's appointments, and I really have to go to them. And I've got some testing I have to have done on Tuesday morning, but I will be back here next Saturday. The doctors never want to work on Saturday, so I can be back here on Saturday at 11:05 and talk to you about everything that's going on at Bruyn's and all of the insects and everything that you have complained about all week long to me. My goodness, it has been, I have been absolutely amazed at all the questions I get every time I'm in. There's always all these notes on my desk. Call this person, call this person, call this person. So when I do come in, I'm usually kind of busy with all of that stuff. But hey, if you get me, I'm usually there in the afternoons, probably Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I can't really do much more than that right now. We'll see what the doctor says on Tuesday, but hey, we'll know then. But, until next Saturday at 11:05, go green.
You've been listening to the Jan Meeuwsen Garden Show on 99.7, 1450 WHTC and WHTC.com. If you wish to hear this or other programs hosted by the Master Gardener from De Bruyn Seeds in Zeeland, check out the podcast section of our website, WHTC.com, and listen or download for free. The Jan Meeuwsen Garden Show is a presentation of 99.7 and 1450 WHTC.